we are starting chapter 6, and this is about military forces and terrorism for international relations students. Let's start. And in this figure 6.1, we are representing military and non-military means of leverage. So here on top we have the non-military leverage, and that includes trade relations, tax and monetary policies, diplomats, international organizations, foreign aid, and economic sanctions. And here we have, at this point, we have the military means of leverage, and that includes, for example, the conventional forces. And between the conventional forces, we have the conventional armies, naval forces, and air forces. And the conventional armed forces is the most commonly used military form of leverage, this one. And then we have the irregular forces that include commandos and terrorists, guerrillas, and militias. And then we have the weapons of mass destruction. And this one we have the chemical, biological weapons, and nuclear weapons. Great powers, here we have between the great powers, and between we have the European Union, remember United States, and then China, we have Russia and Japan at this point. So great powers continue to dominate the makeup of world military forces. In table 6.1, we summarize the most important forces of great powers. Together, they account for about 60% of world military spending, 30% of the world's soldiers, and nearly 50% of conventional weapons, 98% of nuclear weapons, and 90% of armed sports. The United States has about 20,000 diplomatic personnel, but really 1.4 million active duty soldiers. It spends about 50 billion a year on foreign aid, but about 600 billion on military forces in war. Because of the security dilemma, states believe they must devote large resources to military capabilities if other states are doing so too. Land forces, and this one is when we talk about land forces, we talk about controlling territory. The territory holds a central place in warfare because of its importance in the international system, and vice versa. Borders define where a state's own military forces and rival states' military forces are free to move. Military logistics makes territorially all the more important because of the need to control territories connecting military forces with each other. Counterinsurgency. This is an effort to combat guerrilla armies, often including programs to win the hearts and minds of rural populations so that they stop sheltering guerrillas. And this is called counterinsurgency. U.S. military forces conducted counterinsurgency campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan for years. The campaigns included the use of lethal military force, payments to key tribal leaders to support American efforts, assisting the formation of local governments, and training new police and military forces to combat the insurgency. Naval forces controlling the seas. You can see here in figure 6.2, pirate attacks near Somalia, that it was in January-September 18, 2008. Okay? Navies are adapted primarily to control passage through the seas and to attack land near coastlines. Controlling the seas in wartime allows states to move their own goods and military forces by sea, while preventing enemies from doing so. Navies can also blockade enemy force. For example, Israel does to control sea access to Hamas routes in Gaza. Power projection. Aircraft carries mobile platforms for attack aircraft are instruments of power projection that can attack almost any state in the world. Power projection is the ability to use military force in areas far from a country's region or sphere of influence. Air forces, and this is controlling the skies. Air forces serve several purposes: strategic bombing of land or sea targets, close air support, battlefield bombing, interception of other aircraft reconnaissance, and airlift of supplies, weapons, and troops. Missiles, whether fired from air, land, or sea, are increasingly important for air forces too, controlling the skies. Air forces controlling the skies continue, okay? Air forces serve several purposes: strategic bombing and land or sea targets. Okay, we have already done this. And in the increasing sophistication of electronic equipment and the high performance requirements of attack aircraft make air forces expensive, totally out of reach for some states. Thus, rich states have huge advantage over poor ones in air warfare. Air forces are likely area for attention in any future U.S.-China arms race. China has spent large sum of past 10 years rejuvenating its aging Air Force capabilities, while the United States continues to invest heavily in its own Air Force, creating new technologies to stay ahead of Chinese advantages. And while air power may be less useful in small-scale warfare, states continue to build their air force in the event of more large-scale conflict. Thank you for your attention.